I got my first ever ugly Christmas sweater yesterday.
For what?
No reason.
Oh, just to have.
It's a brand that I really like. And they had a Black Friday sale last week, so I bought a couple things, and one of them was an ugly Christmas sweater.
Very nice. Today you don't have a party to wear it to.
Maybe I'll wear it to the holiday party. I ended up wearing it though during a meeting yesterday. So I opened the package in the office, and then I went out to shovel snow between my 4 o'clock meeting and my 5 o'clock meeting, and I slipped, and I got my shirt wet. So like I took my shirt off to like dry off, and I'm like, well, I need to put something on before this meeting, and I had like a few minutes, but I'm like, well, I've got an ugly sweater right here. This will be a fun icebreaker. So I just put that on. And it's baseball themed, and turns out this guy's a baseball fan, so we bonded over that a little bit.
Perfect. So, do you think we start soon?
Hold on. We'll give it another minute or two, and then we'll get started.
All right.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? In the interest of time, I want to make sure we're able to get through it as much as possible. So thanks everyone who's attending or will be watching this. Quick introduction, my name is Alec Simon. I'm the Director of Startup Services at Magnet, and I'm presenting today with my colleague, Andrea Navratil. So before we dive into the topic, I want to discuss a little bit about who Magnet is and what we do. So for those of you not familiar, we're a nonprofit in Northeast Ohio that supports small and medium-sized manufacturers. I've been around for almost 40 years now doing that. The core of what we've done that is through our growth services team, which is working with these manufacturers on their sales, marketing, and strategy, on their operations, on engineering challenges that they might have. We also have a workforce development team that has a lot of cool initiatives trying to fill the skills gap in Northeast Ohio. Between manufacturers that are looking to grow but can't necessarily hire and retain the right folks, and with people in Northeast Ohio that are looking for jobs. So trying to bridge that gap. And we have a couple innovative programs in that space. And then we have our Iterator program, which works with physical product innovators and helps them take ideas and turn them into businesses. So this is the team that Andrea and I are a part of. We work with any sort of physical product or manufacturing related innovation to help commercialize those innovations. So that's anything from a game that's sort of a hybrid of Connect 4 and Plinko and beer pong, to a powder that goes in the back of your neck after a haircut, to a body or a device that's highly engineered and looks for dead bodies underground, to a chemical that goes into zinc batteries to improve their lifetime, and just about everything in between. So we help in a lot of different ways. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. But the core of what we do is we help in 3 ways. One is describing how and why your idea might create value. which can be really, really tricky for entrepreneurs or any kind of innovator. And Andrew's going to talk about that in a bit. And that's really, really critical, because if you can't explain what it is that you're trying to do, it's hard to build a business around that. And number two is identify the guesses that you're making. So entrepreneurship and any sort of innovation is built on a series of guesses. So we like to help entrepreneurs understand the guesses that they're out there making. And I say entrepreneur, but that can be used interchangeably with any sort of innovator. Anyone that's creating a new business model, whether that's a brand new organization or within an existing organization. And finally, helping entrepreneurs to experiment with their assumptions. So you have this theory of how your idea might create value. You've identified that there are guesses that are sort of underpinning the entire thing. And we'll talk about both of these today. And then we say, okay, how do we go ahead and experiment and test out to see if those guesses are right? So we start with our value proposition, which is the offer a company makes to consumers that sets it apart from its competition. What do you do differently? What do you do better in the eyes of your consumer that makes someone willing to pick your product versus any other product that's on the market to solve their problem? So I'll let Andrea dive a little bit into the framework that we use to help unpack this value proposition.
Value proposition is a seemingly simple tool, but the proof is in the pudding, and it's really about understanding the guesses that you're making and then finding proof around each and every part of it. So you can see the first one is, what problem are you solving? And problems come in all shapes and sizes, but as we work with innovators, we're looking for three things. We're first of all looking to understand if the problem is solvable. So world hunger is a great problem, but chances are one entrepreneur cannot solve it on their own. So we're looking for problems that are solvable. And the better you can articulate the problem into a meaningful sentence or two really helps to get you the granularity as well as the specificity that helps you figure out if that problem is solvable. Some other things that we look for are scalable. So early on with your innovation, chances are you're going to test it within a small group and very focused. But you want to keep in mind if it's something that will be able to grow legs and be something meaningful for you to bring to market. Especially with physical product entrepreneurs, it's really expensive to prototype and to go through all the stages of iteration to really get a product to market, as well as the marketing and the selling. So early on, we want to ask that question, is it scalable? And then finally, is it significant? And more from the standpoint of, is this problem painful enough that someone will pay for it? Is it significant in how someone is already probably out there looking for solutions? A lot of times we try to find things that ways people are hacking this problem in order to find out if it's a significant problem, if it's causing enough pain and frustration that people are going to go out and look for your solution. So those are some of the things that we look for when we think about the problem. One of the entrepreneurs that we work with creates a chemical additive. His company is called Octet. And he is helping zinc batteries with their recharging issues. So zinc is trying to come onto the market as more of a sustainable and really compete with lithium ion, but they have one big issue, and that is the way that they recharge and how many issues they have with recharging. Well, in order for them to be competitive, they needed this solution. And so that problem was very specific. It was within the skill set of the entrepreneur, and they could really identify what the specific problem was in order to create the right solution. So that takes us to our next bucket, customer. So who will be your first customer? And here the word first is really critical because you're not going to be able, and we get this a lot. People think that their product is perfect for so many situations, and chances are that it is. But at first, in order to be able to use your resources well, you have to identify that person that has that specific pain to a point that they're going to come out and search for that product, or that they'll take your product because it helps fix that pain with that problem, even if it's not perfect. Those are the type of people that tend to be that first customer and who really help you get through the iterations, test through your product, and really help you bring this to market. And also they often become some of your best advocates for your product. But identifying who that target is really important. So thinking about who will love this product, who won't mind if it's not perfect, especially with that first iteration. We've all become so used to software, how it just keeps coming out with different upgrades and things like that. The same process works for physical products as well, where it's probably, it's ideal to not have it perfectly designed with that first iteration. And also thinking about who might the existing companies out there, who might they have neglected? So thinking about that customer who can't find the solution because they're just not a big enough target market or most specific target market. Those are also people you may want to target. Our favorite example for a customer is the Cleveland Brownie or Buckeye Brownies. And they wanted to come to market with a brownie. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of brownies out there, but they said that they were in the strength and weight building market, and they know that bodybuilders have specific days that are their cheat days after they have their competitions, and they want to find products that just have tons and tons of calories and just really maximize those cheat days. So that was their first specific customer that they went to market with. And they had trouble keeping their brownies in stock because they understood that customer. They understood the pain point that that customer had with their problem, and they were able to create a solution that really fit that specific customer. So just like we want you to be really specific with the problem, we also push our entrepreneurs to be very specific with that first customer as well. Which takes us to our next bucket, which is the solution. And again, words here are really important. What unique product or service are you offering? So unique is the key word here. So again, how specific you are with the problem and the customer, you just want to be as specific with the product or service. And again, here, we often challenge people to try to write it in 1 or 2 sentences because that helps them really get down to the most meaningful descriptions of their product. Some of the things that are really important when you're thinking about solution is understanding how it's similar to other things out there and how it's different. And how it's similar, again, kind of goes back to that point we made with the problem, that if there's people already out there trying to find solutions, make hackable things, or are using something sort of close to it, then chances are there's a market need. So understanding what that competition is, what are things and different ways that people are currently solving that problem, and understanding how it will be unique, how it will be different is really important. So by understanding the similarities, you also be able to carve out how you're going to be unique and different to that market. And that's really what you want to strive for as you're describing that solution in the 1 or 2 sentences. We have a client that we work with that's making a special blanket for strollers and car seats. And there's lots of ways to protect kids in your strollers as you're walking and things like that. So people will just throw a basic blanket over top of it, or they'll use something like a plastic kind of cover, but they realized that there was a specific problem and an opportunity to create a solution that really created something that was comfortable as well as protective, that allowed kids to find that like nesting situation almost that they do in their cribs, and to create that when people have long car trips or when they're taking their children in the strollers. So they were able to identify things that were similar and things that were different and create that market gap and identify that solution through that unique product that they were delivering. And the last bucket's a little bit broader, and it really helps you think about, can you bring this to market? Having ideas and understanding things that we have in our daily lives that create pain is sometimes the easier piece of this puzzle, but can you bring it to market? What special assets does your team have? So we often ask entrepreneurs, why you? And it can be anything from having a patent to being in that market space and having a network that could easily get the message out. So there's many different ways to have special assets for your team, and thinking about who you are and what you can bring that will really help to drive and bring that to market is really important. And then thinking about too, how can you add some of those assets? So maybe if you have one piece of the puzzle, thinking about who you might want to partner with in order to bring some of those other pieces to that puzzle. It's about knowledge, network, patents. It's about how you organize and bringing that business model. And all of those things come together to create a great team. One of the teams that we work with is the one that Alec mentioned, that's finding dead bodies with a mobile device. And they have brought specific scientists on board, people who understood how to get investment and capital and all those things in order to create a team that really could bring this to market. And all this comes together to create that value proposition that, again, is something that you want to specifically be able to articulate and include the solution, the problem, and that novel way that you're going to be able to bring this to market and fill that gap in need. So we wanted to bring it to life for you through a specific example. And that example is Venmo. So if we look at what Venmo is doing in the space, they identified a specific problem. And that was around this need for being able to pay bills when you're out with friends, or to split bills, maybe if you're in an apartment, in a very easy and mobile way. The world has gone mobile, and Venmo identified this need to be able to split bills when you don't have any cash on you, and make it really easy and almost instant to be able to address that need. So that was the problem that they identified very early on. And it was a specific problem that the two founders were having on a daily basis, kind of as they were roommates, and as you know, they were out and doing different things together, and just needing that ability to be able to split a check without having things be too complicated, or it taking forever to like follow up with your buddy and say, hey, do you have this cash? Again and again and again. So then to think about the customer that they are addressing, it was really around, you know, kind of who they were. They were just recent college graduates. They had felt this pain as they were in college. And so they were students, or just recently out sharing bills and expenses. And that was that first, again, remembering that idea of first, that was that first market that they were addressing, who was having that pain in such a way that they were willing to try and test something that might not be perfect. When Venmo rolled out with their initial product, it certainly doesn't look like it looks today. There's been so much added along the way. So thinking again about that first customer who's going to take it and help you kind of figure it out and fine tune it along the way is important. That takes us to the next bucket, which is all around solution. So what they came up with was a mobile app that helps you easily pay. And one of the things that they added as they better understood the problem and the customer was the social experience. So not only are these first customers doing everything mobily, but they're also doing everything on social apps and things like that. And so they identified partially with their problem the awkwardness of paying people and having to address that issue of reminders and things. So they created a shared experience that was social around this idea of paying people back. So their solution included both the ability of the mobile as well as the easy payment, as well as creating these socially shared experiences. And then finally, it was about their team. So they were doing freelance in the software and web design and analytics space. They were recent college grads. They knew a lot of people in these same situations that could be those first customers, and that they could help bring it to market and really get it to the point where it was ready for that next sale. So Venmo created a frictionless transfer of money that also shares these memorialized experiences that friends have while they're in situations where they share money.
Thanks, Andrea. And it seems like a simple framework, right? It seems like, yeah, first customer. And in this one, you know, this was their first customer. They're now a massive company who targets everybody, but you have to start somewhere. It can take, it seems very simple. We went through this very quickly. It can take, upwards of 2.5 hours to go through this with a client and really walk through each of these individual boxes and putting them and trying to answer these questions. It's 4 simple questions, but we see a lot of times innovators have a really difficult time trying to answer these questions. And normally when we work with an entrepreneur, we'll answer these questions once at the start. And every time we meet with them, there's some slight changes over time because these are all guesses. Because it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so, by Mark Twain, but probably not Mark Twain. So as we revisit this particular framework here, these are all guesses, but there are 4 other guesses that kind of underpin the entire framework. And these are the assumptions that I was talking about when we started earlier. So there are 4 assumptions we're really going to focus on. Number 1 is this idea of, is it a burning problem? So connecting that first customer with the problem they're trying to solve. So to Andrea's point, is it scalable? Is it significant? Is it a real problem, or is it just a minor nuisance, right? Is it a problem that people are actually trying to figure out how to solve right now? Is it a problem that people actually really care about and are really thinking of, it's really causing them pain in their daily life? Not having cash and be able to transact between people, that's a real problem that people are having, a significant problem. I'd say that 50% or more of the innovators that we've worked with that haven't been able to really scale have failed because they haven't necessarily identified a burning problem. They've assumed that it's a problem because people in their daily lives have that problem, or they had that problem, but they didn't necessarily get outside their 4 walls and validate that this was a true problem. The second assumption here is, does it solve the problem? And you're probably saying, well, obviously, of course, that's a no-brainer, right? Of course it solves the problem. Not always, right? A lot of times we have innovators that come to us with a solution in search of a problem, and we're trying to identify the right problem that's solved by that particular product. Sometimes the solution is incomplete, right? Sometimes the solution, we're working with a fitness innovator, and the device itself is not enough to solve the problem that he's identified, which is how to get people to work out more at home. A unique device just isn't enough. You need a curriculum to go around that to enable it. Other times the solution doesn't work, right? We try and build, and we came up with something that's not feasible. Other times we create a great solution that solves one particular problem, but causes 10 other problems. We worked with an innovator that had a landscaping solution. And it was a really cool solution to one very specific problem, but it created about 10 other different problems. So it wasn't quite as valuable. Yes, it solved the problem, but it made a lot of things more difficult. Connecting team and solution. Can you deliver the solution? Can you actually take a product to market in a financially viable way? Can you get the IP that you need? Have you really evaluated the competition properly? Can you create a manufacturing process or a supply chain that will enable delivery of the solution? This is usually what people come to Magnet for. They want help creating the manufacturing process. We usually will go back and talk a lot more about the burning problem. And then finally, can you convert your customer? This is, if I'd say 50% will fail, and is it a burning problem? The next biggest problem is, can you actually convert your customer? So this is, can you get someone to buy your product and give you money for it? We had a client that we worked with at one point that did 400 customer interviews, and overwhelmingly people told him they would buy his product. But when we put up a website and drove thousands of hits to his website, no one purchased. Was it the pricing? Was it the messaging? Was it the product itself? We did testing to try and understand, but it just turns out people weren't interested in the product. They didn't like the product, so he could not convert his customer. We have this belief that if we create great products and great solutions, it'll just naturally take off. We work with entrepreneurs all the time that have really cool ideas and build cool products, but don't necessarily understand the investment that's required to actually tell people about them. How do you know about the newest product that you buy? There's so many ads per day that people are seeing. How do you get through that clutter and tell people about your product? So those are the real 4 assumptions that we talk about. So anytime we work with an innovator, we start by walking through this value proposition. We then sort of start to unpack these assumptions to figure out, where do we have evidence? Do we have evidence that it's a burning problem? Do we actually have people that have told us that it's a problem? Have we witnessed it as a problem? Do we have evidence that the solution solves the problem? Have we built a prototype to test it? Do we have evidence that we can deliver it in a financially viable way? Do we have financial models and IP and competitive landscapes? Can we have evidence we can convert our customer? Have we put up a website and drawn traffic? Do we have sales? So we'll sort of unpack the evidence that we have, and then go for, okay, based on where we don't have evidence, what we believe to be most critical, what will we go to do to test? And we talk about that in 4 verbs, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly in the interest of time. The first is listening to customers. This is about how do we better understand if it's a burning problem? By going out and listening to customers. They're the ones that'll tell us it's a problem. Understanding if the solution solves the problem is going out and building. It's creating prototypes and getting them into the hands of customers and letting them use them and observing. It's getting organized and creating a checklist to get organized to help us understand if we can deliver the solution. And then finally, it's about selling the product. That's the key to everything. Can you actually sell the product? So those are the 4 verbs that we really use to understand and bring everything together. And we might work with clients for years on this, trying to get through all of these boxes. But we believe these assumptions are critical to understanding a business. It's where a lot of business plans fall short, right? You can have the prettiest 200-page business plan in the world, but it's built on these critical elements and these critical assumptions. And we believe it's really important to test those assumptions as quickly and cost effectively as we can prior to going to market, prior to making massive investments in tooling, prior to quitting your day job, whatever that might be. We like to test these out first. So with that said, that is what we have for today. If anyone wants to reach out to us, I didn't put our email in here. I'm sure it'll be included at some point. But our website is manufacturingsuccess.org. You can just go to our website and you'll be connected directly to us. So with that, thank you very much. Did we just get off now?
Yeah. Hi, Joey. Should we just jump off?
I think so.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.